All right, so I would like to provide a brief word to the entire infrastructure debacle that has finally come to a head with, of course, the Democrats reneging on their promises previously and doing what we all pretty much expected them to do, which is let people down. So this is an article from CNN that gives you a quick overlay of the situation. The House on Friday voted 228 to 206 to pass a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill after hours of delays and debating among Democrats, sending the bipartisan measure to Joe Biden's desk for his signature. But while Democratic leaders managed to unify House progressives and moderates to hold a vote on the Senate-passed bill, not all members of the party ultimately supported it. A number of progressives who have consistently called for both infrastructure and the separate economic package known as the Build Back Better Act to move together voted no on the legislation. Here are the 6 House Democrats who broke from their party to vote against the bill. Representative Jamal Bowman, Representative Cori Bush, Representative AOC, Representative Ilhan Omar, Representative Ayanna Pressley, and Representative Rashida Tlaib. Now, credit to those 6, but there was also 13 Republicans who voted in support. I don't really care. I don't really care to read their names. So, yeah, let's just go over this very quickly. So, this is essentially a corporate giveaway, which is why it's getting bipartisan support, which is why 13 Republicans defected to vote for it, which is why it passed 69 to 30 in the Senate. Now, this is incredibly sad for a multitude of reasons. The quote-unquote Congressional Progressive Caucus, it's not a progressive caucus at all. A lot of those people in there are only progressive by name. They're not actually progressive. There's supposed to be 95 members, I think, or something like that, like close to 100 members in that caucus. You want me to believe that there's close to 100 progressives in Congress? Stop the bullshit. There's probably like 3 or 4. I mean, those 6 probably that I just named are the only ones that have a fucking spine, and that's actually an overstatement. They don't have a spine at all. We know how incredibly weak those people are. They just don't happen to be on the right side of this issue, which means people like Mark Procan, Famila Jayapal, Barbara Lee, Mondaire Jones, people that were really staunch in their opposition of not passing these two together have completely folded. But it's incredibly indicative of the Democrats and how weak and feeble and awful they are. So what does this mean? This means that you're not going to get a spending bill. Or at least that's what I think. And I'm always honest and upfront with what I think. And that's what I think. And if we do get a spending bill, I think that it'll actually be even less than the bill that previously got destroyed. So let's recap over what happened over these past couple weeks and months regarding this infrastructure negotiations. So first of all, I want to start off by saying the American Society of Civil Engineers calculates that we need, at minimum, $5 trillion to adequately upgrade our infrastructure. That's not to go above and beyond, make it the best, do the best we can. That's just to adequately upgrade. So we need a minimum of $5 trillion. So if you remember previously, Bernie Sanders' proposal, I believe, was $6 trillion. Of course, the progressives, including Bernie, came out with $3.5 trillion proposal, which was, as they would say, and as he would say, the compromise. Okay, but we know how corrupt the system is, how horrible our political leaders are. That $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill got whittled down to the $1.75 trillion number that it is now. That's bound to get whittled down even further if it has any hope of passing. But let's go over what was in the $3.5 trillion bill that Americans are missing out on. So Medicare negotiating for lower drug prices for Americans. So Public Citizen not too long ago released a report that showed us in great detail. I recommend you seek that out. Americans paying higher prices for their pharmaceutical drugs than every other developed country combined. Every other country combined. It's absolutely insane. And if you look through the report, it shows you these different pharmaceutical companies, they make the bulk of their profits by price gouging Americans because every other country actually gives a fuck about their citizenry and doesn't want them to get hosed simply for wanting their medication. So they do that for them. We don't do that for our population, and we're not going to do so in the near future, it seems. So the American people will continue to get screwed on that regard. And I remind you, that issue is like a 70, 80% approval from Americans, because who the fuck wants to pay higher drug prices? 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave. Axed. It got brought down to 4 weeks, then it got brought down to 0. So the workers of this country will continue to struggle. and face the deterioration that they've been faced with for decades now in this country. I believe it was 2 years of free community college, axed, gone. So students can't even go to a community college now and not accrue this mass amount of debt that they can never repay. What else did we have? They wanted to make the child tax payments permanent. They only got a 1-year extension. That'll probably end up getting thrown out. Who knows what will happen? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Let's not even speak about the taxes. So no raise in the corporate tax. So need I remind you, in the year of 2020, the 55 largest corporations paid net $0 in taxes. In fact, they got tax rebates. If you don't know what that means they got money back. How? The system is rigged and it's broken and everything's corrupt. Okay. No taxes on the rich. So the billionaire tax got axed, okay, because they bought the politicians. No raise in the top marginal tax rate. So essentially, no tax raises. So the people that don't pay their taxes already will continue not to do so, but the middle class that really isn't even the middle class anymore, it's been torn to shreds. The massive people in this country is a more accurate statement, will continue to pay their taxes, and they'll continue to pay more taxes than people with the names like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, because they have a horde of hedge funds and lawyers that can get them out of paying the taxes that they're supposed to continue to pay. So this is further igniting the ongoing class war that's been going on for decades and decades in this country. I mean, what else can we really say? What else can we really say? And the Democrats are sure, in Democrat fashion, to come out and tout this, look at this bipartisan bill that we passed. Don't you love us for it? And they'll expect you to come out and vote for them in the midterms. Needless to say, people won't. Look, I mean, I thought it was the case before, and it's more than likely the case now that we are looking at a future wash, meaning they will get beat to sleep because they have been captured by corporations and the rich. It wasn't always this way. You know, if you look back to FDR and, you know, Lyndon B. Johnson and other characters, even JFK, you know, it wasn't always this way, but it is that way now. And so the Democrats are not looking at a good future. You know, who knows what can happen? I mean, the possibilities are endless. They really are. And there's a broader conversation to be had in that respect. But at least with these infrastructure negotiations, they've, spit in the face, spit in the eye of all Americans. You know, they've pissed on your foot. They've done everything disrespectful they can do. And they're going to turn around and expect you to be happy and, be elated and tell you to support them due to these antics. This is absolutely asinine. If I were you, I wouldn't expect a spending bill to get passed at this point, because Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, anybody else that's quote unquote moderate, they're actually extremists that wouldn't support any kind of social spending bill. Definitely not going to support it now. They've lost all leverage. They gave all of their leverage away, allowing this bipartisan bill to seep through. And they're just going to keep pushing back the social spending bill. We'll pass it before Thanksgiving. Before Christmas. 2023. And then they lose. So, I mean, that's the future that we're looking at. It's absolutely sad. It's absolutely reprehensible. But, you know, one has to wonder, how much more can the American people take? Because we know they've been under much stress and pain and anguish, and this pandemic has done nothing but make it worse. And seemingly, when they were going to get a little bit of relief, the gap was going to be closed just a tad. Of course, the political leaders reneged on all those promises, and they will continue to suffer. But one has to wonder for how long. I mean, we're seeing the manifestations of it right now before our very eyes. I think 25,000 Kaiser workers are beginning to mobilize to strike there. I mean, the St. Vincent nurses, I believe, the John Deere workers recently denied. They rejected that contract from John Deere because it wasn't sufficient. I mean, workers across the country are rising up, and that's really all the hope that I have is the people, the American people. They're what gives me hope, and hopefully it does the same for you. But this is incredibly sombering and tragic news to know that these many provisions that were supposed to be really good things won't be coming to fruition. But I can't say that I'm surprised in the slightest.